Hey guys, this is Bryan Rosner with the Anti-Lyme Journal. Thank you for subscribing and supporting me. Today I'm going to be making a video for you about specific treatments for Borrelia. So not for the co-infections, just for Borrelia. And before I get started, please note that I am a journalist. I am not a doctor, so this is just for informational purposes only. This is just my personal experience and my layperson what I've learned. So nothing medical, nothing professional here. So before we get started, I will just note that people tend to notice flare-ups of different infections at different times. So it's very helpful to keep your supplements organized by co-infection or by infection. So in other words, have a box or a Tupperware of Babesia treatments, a box or a Tupperware of Bartonella treatments, and a box or a Tupperware of Borrelia treatments. That way, if you do have a flare-up or something, you don't have to be remembering which treatments you used and, oh, I forgot that one. It was really helpful. I wish I would have remembered. It's really important to keep these organized. So as you can see, I have my box here of some Borrelia treatments that I've used in the past, and I also have a device over here, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But I'm going to go over these one by one and just sort of tell you why I like them, where you can get them, and talk about what I've learned about each one of these individual supplements. One thing to note is that some of these do require a doctor's prescription, and you would need to get a doctor's prescription to get them, but I would say about at least 90% of them are over-the-counter. But of course, even with the over-the-counter ones, please also consult your physician before you use them. I'm gonna move around here. You can see we're in my publishing office here. This is my desk. It's kind of a mess now. It always is a mess. This is an ergonomic keyboard that I got when I wrote my first book, when I started to get some ergonomic issues. It's called The Data Hand. Interesting story. I'll tell you guys that another time. They stopped making these keyboards, and this thing actually saved my career. So I've got a couple of spares up there that I had to get, because if this thing ever broke, I would have a really hard time typing. So anyway, that's a topic for another day. Back to our topic at hand. I'm just going to go over these one by one and tell you a little bit about them. One thing to note, sorry I keep giving you so many notes, but there is a lot to talk about with these. In my opinion, treatments that do not attack Borrelia directly are usually the best, because Borrelia has if you read my first book, Lyme Disease and Rife Machines, you'll know that Borrelia has a very elaborate defense mechanism where it can evade many treatments and even be driven into more aggressive forms if you hit it too hard with certain treatments. So, for example, I talk about in my book Lyme Disease and Rife Machines. Here's a copy of that if you guys haven't seen it yet. You can get it on Amazon or on my website, lymebook.com. But I talk about how electromagnetic therapies such as Rife Machines don't cause that problem where the bacteria really become defensive and go into cyst form and dig deeper into tissues. So I always like treatments that don't attack it directly. One of my favorites is this device over here called the PE1. It's a photon energetic treatment, and you use these little nosodes here. These are little homeopathic nosodes, and you put them right by your solar plexus, and then you use this light device. And if you are unfamiliar with this, it was pioneered by a doctor in Germany who you can read about in a chapter in another book we published called Insights into Lyme Disease Treatment. There's a German device that is typically used for this, and of course that's a good device. This one is a lot more affordable, so I do tend to, personally, this is the one that I purchased because I could not, the other one is several multiples more expensive. So this particular treatment isn't as aggressive in attacking the infection. What it does instead is it activates your immune system against that particular infection. I found it to be extremely helpful. A lot of people on different discussion forums have said that it is the one thing that sort of got them over the hump. So that's something to keep in mind. As far as devices go, I also really like the MRS 2000. It's a magnetic mat that you lie down on, and I've got a unit here. It's called the MRS 2000. It's also by a German manufacturer, and again, I really like that two, and then of course all the devices that I have talked about in my books that some of you guys have read. So moving on to these supplements here, I'll just go over them one by one, and I might post a link on the blog somewhere of where to buy these, or like, a link to buy them, but you can Google them, and most of them are not very difficult to find. So we'll start with Laricidin. Really interesting supplement. It's based on the work of, I think his picture is on here, of this researcher, Dr. John Cabara, and it's basically derived from coconut. It's monolaurin, which is derived from coconut, and it kind of has like an emulsifying effect on the biofilm and the fat-soluble properties of Borrelia. Really, really useful. One of my favorites. I've got some colloidal silver here, which is great. This is an old brand that I don't think is made anymore, but it's a good broad-spectrum antimicrobial. Carnivora is another really good one. It's an herbal extract that there's a lot of science on this, and a lot of people that have had very, very positive results. This is really fascinating. This is Coriolus mushroom, also known as Coriolus versicolor. It's a type of mushroom, and it has been shown in a couple of scientific studies conducted by Lyme doctors to activate the immune system in just the right way to counteract the damage that Borrelia does. Very, very useful. This one is made by, this is my favorite one, it's made by Mycology Research Laboratories. Really, really like that one. Some of you guys know this curcumin. I posted it on the blog a few weeks ago. This curcumin is better and different than any other kind I have ever used. It really, really counteracts that inflammation that is caused by Borrelia, that really shuts down circulation and shuts down the immune system. So another really good option there. Pyloricin. I love this stuff. It's made by Pharmax, and it is a combination of oregano, clove, ginger, and wormwood oil. Really high quality. They're all freeze-dried, very high quality, very potent, very useful. Nutricology microchitosan. So in my first book, Lyme Disease and Rife Machines, I talked to you guys about a chitosan supplement that actually is able to absorb bacterial toxins. And the one that I mentioned was a little bit expensive and a little harder to find, but I found this new brand called microchitosan, and basically what this stuff does is it's actually used to lower cholesterol because it absorbs fat-soluble stuff like bile and other stuff. But when you make it into the micro form, it actually gets absorbed systemically and travels throughout the system and absorbs the fat-soluble Lyme toxins, and can really, really help people feel better if they're toxic, which most people are. So very important one there. Mangosteen is an interesting fruit that has anti-Borrelia properties. There's actually some studies on this. This is a brand that I like, but there's a lot of other brands. I really like this. This is transfer factor. It's kind of like a colostrum, but it activates a specific type of specific part of your immune system. This one is called Transfer Factor Lyme Plus, made by Research Nutritionals. Very good at helping the immune system to see the invading pathogens. Of course, I've got the two Nutrimetics staples here, Cemento and Banderol. These are really well studied. There's some new studies by some hospitals and really highly respected Lyme doctors on these actually destroying Lyme biofilms, and really useful. These are kind of the core of a Lyme disease treatment protocol. Nutrimetics makes dozens of other very useful products. They have a stevia extract. It's just like the stevia that you use to sweeten foods and whatnot. And there's also some new science journal articles about how that too, the stevia, fights Borrelia directly, which many of you guys have probably heard of. Teasel root. This is another really core supplement, hard to find. Potter's Garden is the one that I use. Core Lyme disease supplement. They used to use it for other types of spirochete infections like syphilis. So it's got a lot of science behind it and one of the cores. Grapefruit seed extract, not to be confused with grape seed extract. This is a lot of doctors think that this is actually a cyst buster, so it can actually counteract those defensive Lyme disease organisms that you get when you use too many antibiotics. The Stephen Booner, here's a couple of Stephen Booner's herbs. He's got a lot of herbs in his book, Stephen Booner, so don't think this is the whole protocol here, but I do have a couple of these. Andrographis and resveratrol. These are sort of his core Borrelia herbs in his book Healing Lyme. Super scientifically backed up, very, very useful, very good part of a Borrelia protocol. Sarsaparilla is another one that is really well studied for Borrelia, and another one that you can rotate as part of a rotation protocol. Oh, I do have the stevia in here. Here's the Nutramatic stevia, which I was telling you about. Essential oils. These are sort of on the up-and-coming rise with Lyme treatment. This one is part of like a 6 oil series that I really like. These can be diffused, or they can be used several other ways. Some people even find it helpful just to inhale the vapor, just sort of the smell them. And that can trigger a Herxheimer reaction improvement. So you got to kind of be careful with these and how you apply them. Make sure you're, not overwhelming your system. And again, check with your physician on these. Biocidin by Biobotanical Research, very awesome company. This product has been around for a couple of years. They just came out with the liposomal formula, which gets absorbed into your fat-soluble tissues like the brain much more easily. This one is fantastic, probably one of the best things you can do, and you can find more at their website. You could just Google Biobotanical Research there. I do have a freeze-dried garlic extract here, which is really, really useful. Garlic, you probably know, almost everybody knows about the benefits of garlic, so that's another good one for Borrelia. And then this is a pharmaceutical that you need a prescription for. This one is made by a pharmacy in India. I'm sorry, a pharmaceutical manufacturer in India called Lupin. And this is this is really hard to pronounce. Nitazoxanide, which most people know as Alinea. And this has gotten to be very well known by a lot of the Lyme doctors now. Alinea is one of the antiparasitic drugs that I talk about in my newest book, Freedom from Lyme Disease. I have a whole chapter in my new book, Freedom from Lyme Disease, on antiparasite drugs. And one of the things that I talk about with these antiparasite drugs is that there's about 5 or 6 of them. There's ivermectin, Alinea, albendazole, and a few other ones. But one of the most interesting things about these is a lot of people sort of ignore the whole parasite thing. They say, well, I already treated parasites, or well, I don't have intestinal problems, I have Lyme disease, well, I don't need to look into that. And it's a big mistake if you do that, because these drugs, and even herbs for that matter, are not just used for intestinal worms. They have tons of other activity against other organisms. Like, for example, if you look back at this Alinea, this stuff is believed by many Lyme doctors to treat the cystic form of Lyme disease. It also, if you look on PubMed, has anti-biofilm qualities. It also has anti-parasite and protozoa qualities, so it could be useful against Babesia. And it is like a list of like 5 or 6 different things that this stuff does that you really can't accomplish with anything else. So I really encourage you not to overlook the anti-parasite protocol, because they're just multi-faceted and useful for many different things. The last one in here is, this is just a little package I have left. I just put it in here to remind me to talk to you about it. This is tinidazole, which is pretty classic, standard anti-Lyme drug, and studies have shown that it's really one of the best in attacking all 3 of the forms, the spirochete, the cyst form, and the L form. It might seem kind of old and boring, and you guys are saying, yeah, find something new, but it's really important to go back to the core of the protocol sometimes. and to remember that new isn't always better. And if you read my book and you read about the rotation protocol, you'll remember that Lyme disease, you peel the layers off the onion. And so if you used tinidazole 10 years ago and it worked really well, and you're thinking, well, I already been there, done that, why do I need to use it again? Well, you might be on a deeper layer of the onion now where you would need to use that again. And it's not an old hat treatment, and it's not something that that you used 10 years ago. That's such an important point to drive home, that these are treatments that may need to be used periodically. And so don't think of them as old or new. Think of them as, is it the right time to use them? So I'm going to cut that off here. We're just about at 15 minutes. I know that's a lot of time to be listening to me chat at you guys. Please remember, I am not a doctor, and this information, some of these supplements and drugs are harmful and do have side effects and are dangerous, and you need to use them under the supervision of your physician. Some of them require liver monitoring. Some of them have side effects and allergic reactions. So please be aware that this is not an endorsement by me that you can just go ahead and start taking this stuff. You really do need to get your doctor's approval first. I am just a journalist keeping track of this stuff. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you what to use. So that's it for now. The next video I make, I think, will be a little tutorial on how to make your own liposomal vitamin C, which is really good stuff if you have adrenal fatigue, even a little bit of adrenal fatigue, which most people do because Bartonella gets into your adrenals and really messes them up. Liposomal vitamin C is one of the main healing things you can do, but the liposomal vitamin C that I found is super expensive. And so if you can make your own for a few dollars a month, it is such a cool thing. So I will show you guys how to do that next time. And I'm going to sign off here. Thank you guys for subscribing to my journal. Have a great day.